He didn't
Not
graduate.
okay.
He didn't graduate. And years later, they said, "Oh man, he's down on Raleigh Boulevard working at Food Lion." You don't
Okay.
remember that?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't remember that.
It, it goes back to what I was saying, going back to the dating podcast. You got to realize where the power is. You see what I'm saying? You got to realize where the power is and how you balance the power. Because if you don't have the power and you go up against an entity with power, they will destroy you. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
They will totally destroy you, man. And here's the thing: people that you think are riding with you are only riding with you when it looks good. They not like think about it now. We talking about the Andrew Brown case down in Elizabeth City where they
mhm,
won't release the tape.
mhm.
How many people you think still out there protesting? You think if somebody get arrested tonight, you think the news gonna be there like, oh, this protester got arrested? Nah, that motherfucker gonna sit in jail for a little bit till he can make bail. You know why? Because the media ain't on that no more. All the media that was down in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, they gone. They own whatever else is going on now. So
But
if you try that and you go, if you don't have the power, here's the thing: whether it be in dating or in protesting or whatever, you better realize who has the power. And that's what I tell people. Like we the people never have the power. Like we gonna protest until they tell us to stop.
mm-mm,
Because when they tell us
mm-mm,
to stop, bro,
mm-mm. I
what
disagree
happened?
with that.
Okay,
I
what
disagree
happened
with
in
that.
DC the night of the insurrection? What happened in DC? Did you ever see those videos? Did you
Well,
see those videos? That shit didn't last that long that night. It didn't last as long as the daytime stuff did. You know why? Because them rubber bullets was out, them
mhm.
batons was out, the National Guard was out. No, man. You're gonna
Well,
protest until they say, you know what? I'm tired of it. Y'all need to sit the fuck down.
right. Well, there's different levels, and I understand what you're saying, but here's where I'm going to disagree with you on that. There's different levels to protest. And back in the '60s, back when our mothers and our aunts and everybody was teenagers and kids or even young adults, the way they did it, right? The way they did it through a monetary protest. Where they kind of say, okay, fuck that. We're not gonna ride the bus or we're gonna do certain things. We're gonna spend our money in our own whatever, whatever, whatever. You don't get results until you start fucking with the money, bro. I don't care what anybody tell you. You could throw cinder blocks through windows all day long. That shit's gonna get shut down. But when you deal with that bottom line, which is that bread, that's when people gonna come to the table and start listening to you. And that's why the whole deal with this whole COVID deal got got done so quickly with the cure and everything like that. The bottom line got affected. When that money start getting affected, that's when people gonna come to that table and say, listen, we're gonna have to do it a different way. Because no one ever listens to you unless you got money and you got support behind you, but more importantly, you have that money. And that's all people care about, especially the ones you're talking about with power and all that stuff that has a say so about to deal with how you deal with certain things. It's all about the money. And like I said, I always thought that certain aspects of protesting, we need all aspects of protesting. Some people are like we don't need the violence. Well, it is what it is. All protesting comes with some aspects of violence, some aspects of it comes with some aspects of violence and things of that nature, and it comes with sittings and all of that stuff like that. But there's different levels of protesting, and I think what you're talking about, yeah, it didn't affect the bottom line, but if had what he was doing or had what the students were doing affected an entity's bottom line, that's when the power of what he was doing or any protest is doing comes into play. That's when they really start bargaining with you when you start dealing with that money.
You
You know what I'm
need power to
saying?
affect the bottom line. And it's tough to bargain with power when you've already got money. Look at the NFL. We tried, right? Like, well, oh, we're not
No,
watching. We're not
bro.
watching.
No, bro. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. They had to go out and get Jay-Z because let me tell you something. You may think that people wasn't watching, and those ratings showed that people was not watching. Let me tell you something. The NFL don't give a fuck about who comes to those stadiums. They don't give a
Right.
fuck about who comes to those stadiums.
It's the
The
TV deals.
NFL is a TV show. You let anybody tell you different, they lying to you. The NFL is a TV program. So if the ratings don't add up, they can't ask for those $1 billion TV deals. So look at the ratings of the NFL doing that whole Colin Kaepernick thing, the whole thing with what they were talking about. That's where they came to say, okay, we need to talk about this more. I'm not going to give a fuck about Colin or nobody else until those ratings start to come in. Like, yo, man, we losing bread on this thing. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
We
That's
got to appease the people,
we got to appease the people.
but we
So
not gonna fix nothing.
Well, here's the problem with black folks, right? And this is my opinion. People give me shit about this. I always said this or whatever. Even when I was a kid, I always said this when I heard things about what happened back then. One of the worst things about us is we feel like we have to be included on everything. But when we had our own, it was much better. You know what I'm saying? So although the premise of segregation was the devil's work, was hateful, was mistrust and all that, but in hindsight, when you're forced to do your own thing, when you're forced to provide for your own, when you're fired from society, which black people was, we were fired from society. So what did we fold up? Did we give up? Did we run and quit? No, we like, okay, fuck you. So we're gonna go and do our own thing. And what happened was those societies that were forced and put out in on the pasture, so to speak, they prospered. They worked amongst themselves, and that power that they had, although they didn't come back to them and say we want to be included in them. No, they kept that power to themselves. And what that was going to do, that was going to transform and transmogrify into other societies throughout the U.S. It's like, man, fuck that, we got to quill this shit. And they came in and snuffed all those communities out because they saw the power they had, but that power was not coming back for them. That power was going to snuff them out without even dealing with them. We don't need you. Let me tell you something. The power black folks have is with that money, bro. That money, black people have so much bread. We may not have the numbers population wise, but the economic impact of black people is unquestionable. And if we find a way to educate ourselves on a mass level and say, listen, okay, you don't want to fuck with us? Okay, that's fine. And we start fucking with each other and let that shit cycle through each other. Then they want to come in and talk with us. And then by that time, we're like, man, we don't want to fuck with you. We really don't. Like for example, we talked a couple weeks ago about HBCUs and all that. If we took a quarter, if we took a half of those 5-star, 4-star, 3-star athletes away from them institutions and brought them to HBCUs, what you think that's going to do?
It would do a lot, but I don't think it could happen.
No, but I get that. But my point is, what do you think it will do if it did happen, though? You know what I'm saying? If it did, if we kept everything for ourselves, what do you think would happen, bro? Really, what do you think will happen? Like Dr. Umar said this, and a lot of people talk shit about that, but he said the 4 pillars of any society. This is what you got. You got a hospital, you got a school, you got a bank, you got a grocery store. If we had all 4 of those on every community around the U.S., we wouldn't need anybody else. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't need all that stuff like that. And then we could have our own NFL or whatever. You don't think they become bound down, want to talk to us and say, okay, we sorry, we don't need you no more.
But they know that's not gonna happen. It's like a utopia. Like that ain't